If you can't face the truth, you'll soon be forced to crash into it, and you won't even be prepared. That's what's happening with modern women. Attention and validation play a powerful role in directing and controlling women's lives. Well, they play a huge role in men's lives as well. The only difference is that women are the ones who always expect and receive it, while men are always the ones to give it to them. As women age, they are met with an overwhelming truth. They start to realize that sooner or later, they won't be able to receive the same attention and validation that they did when they were in their 20s. They won't be able to have children. Giving birth will get harder, and they'll need to find a partner, settle down, and start a family right away. Typically, women in their mid to late 30s are affected by this. The majority of women are not prepared for the wall, which is another name for the forthcoming era, when the biological clock starts to slow down and finally comes to a standstill. These women are also aware that no matter how much success they pursue, they will always feel empty inside because they could never climb the corporate ladder without foregoing or delaying having children and settling down with a nice man. For more than 20 years, many women in their early 30s have been successful in attracting men's attention. Males as young as their early 20s and even as elderly as their 50s and 60s have and will continue to have the urge to date women in their prime. It's funny how generation after generation, women go through the same thing and never learn from others. Every year, millions of women come to terms with their reality, and millions of young girls go on the same path that will conclude in the same dark reality. And what is that reality? It's the fact that a woman can run away from being a woman, but she can never keep her feminine nature suppressed for too long. She can keep running away from being feminine as she uses her golden years to chase business and corporate dreams to build wealth. Still, in her 30s, she is going to realize that the universe has given her the incredible power of giving birth, and without her using that power, she's letting it go to her waste. She also comes to terms with the fact that guys no longer approach her as they used to when she was hot and young, when she was flirty with everyone, when she could make heads move, and when she could go to a club and have a dozen boys waiting to and trying their best to take her to their apartment. You see, for a woman in her prime, life's very different than what it is in her 30s and 40s. She gets to be the prize in her 20s. She gets to have a sense of entitlement because every other guy wants to be in her pants and her SMV is at the top. She chooses who she spends time with and who she goes to bed with. She chooses who can have the luxury to buy her luxury designer wear. She's the one who chooses when a guy can see her and the number of guys on hold for her. In her 20s, a woman is her most fertile, and even when the condom doesn't work and she misses her period, she has that assurance that she's fertile. That changes after 10 to 15 years. In her 30s, she realizes that it's not that easy to get pregnant. She has to go to the doctor to have herself checked, maybe take a multivitamin course, and constantly monitor her health so that she's in peak wellness when she decides to get pregnant. And with every passing year, she knows she's nearing the biological clock. They get to realize that sooner or later, there will come a time when they will not be able to reproduce, and there will come a time when it will be increasingly hard for them to give birth, and that they soon need to find a partner, settle down, and start a family. Women usually experience this in their mid to late 30s. The majority of women are not ready for the wall, which is another term used to describe the impending time when the biological clock starts to slow down and eventually come to a halt. Many women in their early 30s have successfully caught men's attention for over 20 years. The desire to date women in their prime has been and will continue to exist in males as young as their early 20s and even as old as their 50s and 60s. Young women have received the attention they have always desired from men of all ages and social backgrounds who have shown them love and given them validation. A lot of women have told me stories about how, when they were in their mid-20s, dodgy 50-year-old guys would hit on them, and when they turned 25, high school boys would try to get them to go on dates with them. There was a particular imbalance of the men's ages, who usually pursued these women. In this sense, the world is open to men, not women. This is because women reach the pinnacle of their lives in their 20s, and after that, their value begins to fall. When this reality starts to sink in for women, it really shatters them and starts to change their perspective on life and their role as women. When they are in their 20s, most women can easily catch the attention of men of any age, but beyond the age of 30 to 35, when their appearance begins to deteriorate, the interest of teenagers, 20-somethings, and even men of their own age start to fade as they start to focus on younger women instead. Many women believe that the men in their age groups don't treat them fairly. Women who are 35 years old question why guys their age don't want to date and marry them. In actuality, a 35-year-old man with a job, resources, and a car can seduce younger, more attractive women in their 20s. Before becoming engaged and eventually getting married, most men need to spend a year or two getting to know a woman. Because of this, if a man marries a 35-year-old woman after undergoing this process, she won't give birth until she's 38, thus decreasing her chances of having children. Early to mid-30s, women must start thinking about males in their late 30s, 40s, and possibly even 50s as potential partners. Many of these older men are now the only ones left on the market because they have already had children and marriages. If these men are divorced, they likely already have children and might want a second wife. Some of the mid-30s women I know don't seem to want to accept this. They claim that only older men are looking at them, and they find it repulsive. These same ladies spent their 20s hopping from one fling to another, and now they're confused about what happened. They didn't anticipate finding themselves in this situation, and things weren't supposed to turn out this way. Many of them find it shocking that men select women rather than women selecting men. It's challenging for women to accept that they aren't being pursued in the same way they once were, since the natural order of relationships has been turned in favor of males. Only a small percentage of guys who have been physically burned by women have an understanding of the plight of women in their 30s and are now the men they choose to date instead of the entire male side of the human race. It's even worse for women who have an obsession with having babies. They don't care how to get one because they desperately want a child. They will sleep around unprotected and claim to be taking the pill when they are not. That's both sad and diabolical at the same time. Women often mature earlier than men do when they are teenagers because they have historically had the reproductive advantage when it comes to passing on their genes. This is because, especially at times in our history when resources were scarce, the earlier women mature, the higher the prospects are for the survival of our species. They will, however, wither earlier as well because they flower earlier. Men with money and resources are more likely to attract women, and smart men who put out the effort and save money will only become more alluring to women over time. When they are in their mid-30s, they would also spend a lot of money on makeup and cab fare. I've encountered women who are deeply indebted from credit card debt and student loans and are searching for a wealthy man to bail them out. Numerous women I know have openly admitted to me that they are looking for a sugar daddy to assist them in paying off their debts. For women, the aging wall can be a huge psychological blow. Men, on the other hand, are drawn to women because of their capacity for reproduction. The aging process can be compared to a game of poker full of deception and other types of misdirection, where both sides are involved. For example, if a man and a woman were playing poker in their early 20s, the man starts with 1 chip and the woman has 90. But by the time they are 35, he has 85 of those chips and she has only 6. Your financial resources have a significant impact on your status and alternatives in real life, just like in poker. More women than men that I am aware of wasted their money rather than save it when they were young. They would go on trips, purchase shoes, have supper out a couple of times a week, and hang out with their pals. The unquestionable reality that women face today is of age, their beauty, and their demand. The reality is that with age, they will lose both their demand and their beauty, no matter how many surgeries they have or whatever products they use on them. If they are not willing to accept this basic simple truth, they'd still be looking for Chad at 60. Thanks for watching The Circle of Kings. As always, we're looking forward to your support.